What up, y'all? How you doing? It's your friend Phil, Project Management Trainer and Coach. This is day 14 of our series of 40 days to PMP and CAPM exam success. Now, obviously, I'm not in the car today, but we are going to be talking about collect requirements. Let's jump in.
Now, this process collect requirements, I look at this as a collections. Have you ever heard of the term collections agency? Those people who show up and attempt to collect a debt, right? Well, in this process, this is where the project manager and the team, whoever it is that's responsible, will collect those requirements from people that owe them, stakeholders. This is where the project manager and the team are involved in documenting all requirements, mapping those requirements to the requesters who asked for this requirement, and getting further detail about what is really required on the project, technical requirements, functional requirements, engineering requirements, business requirements, compliance requirements, legal requirements, whatever you want to call them. Now, the inputs to this process are straightforward: the scope management plan and the requirements management plan. The scope management plan, of course, gives an idea of how scope will be managed on the project, and collecting requirements and managing them are part of scope management. But going more into the requirements themselves, we have the requirements management plan, and this is a plan that guides the team on how requirements will be specifically collected on a particular project, because there are many different tools and techniques that could be used, but which ones will be used? And that's what the requirements management plan dictates: the timing of the requirements gathering, the frequency, the whole process for eliciting these requirements. Now, other inputs to this process are the stakeholder management plan. This is a plan for how stakeholders will be engaged. Don't forget, this is a key way to engage your stakeholders, by collecting requirements in a structured, orderly, and tailored fashion. We also have the project charter as an input. Remember, this has high-level requirements in it. And then we have the stakeholder register, because this contains the names and information of those people, the analysis of who we will be collecting requirements from. Don't forget, we may have also started gathering, in some instances, personal requirements from some of these stakeholders while in the identify stakeholders process. So that all comes into play here. Now, the tools and techniques for this process, collect requirements, there's so many that it's probably a good idea we're not driving around the place today. So let's talk about these really quick. Interviews. These could be structured or freeform and used to collect requirements from stakeholders. Focus groups. Think about focus. What does it mean to focus? To narrow down, to hone in on something through a lens. Well, this is where we hone in on certain individuals who could help us to fine tune or generate these requirements. Usually people that are on this project, and we know that their presence is important. Think about people in the top right of your power interest grid, for example. Of course, you want those folks as needed to be part of that focus group. People who have a say in those requirements and who truly understand the business. Then we have facilitated workshops, which brings together a wider group of people, usually from cross-functional teams in a matrixed organization. These facilitated workshops, of course, depend on the facilitator, the PM, whoever is facilitating it. Sometimes people bring in a professional facilitator. So whoever is facilitating it needs to really have their chops in shape to be able to drive that workshop in an orderly fashion. Okay, so think about focus, find a group of people, critical group of people. Think about facilitated workshops as being cross-functional teams, perhaps in some instances an even wider group than the focus groups. Group creativity techniques. Well, you get these folks together into focus groups or workshops. Of course, you need techniques to generate their thinking. So we talk about brainstorming and the nominal group technique and mind mapping and what have you. Read those up in the PMBOK guide. Group decision-making techniques needs no introduction if you've read your share of the PMBOK guide. So plurality, unanimity, dictatorship, majority, all that stuff, know what it means. Questionnaires and surveys. These need no introduction. These could be used to gather requirements. Observations. Have you ever been a guinea pig on a project? I have. I was a guinea pig for a laminating machine. I was being observed to see how I interacted with that prototype. And through my interactions, they added or took out certain requirements for that laminating machine. Number 8, prototypes. Prototypes could be looked at as a mock-up version of a product or result that allows you to collect early feedback from the customer. Benchmarking is using a previous process or product from, for example, a different organization as a basis for collecting requirements for a new product in a different firm, or it could be a process or an operation as well. Context diagrams show data flows from outside of an IT system into the IT system and from within the IT system outside the IT system. We refer to these entities that interact with the system as actors. So you see arrows of data going in, you see arrows of data coming from the system going out, and it just gives you an idea of the flows required, maybe the systems at play, and that will allow you to glean the requirements for the systems and the data flows of those systems. Document analysis. This refers to analyzing certain documents. For example, standard operating procedures in a firm that are captured in a document could be analyzed to glean requirements for a business system. Let's take a look at our outputs of collect requirements. The big outputs: requirements documentation and requirements traceability matrix. Now, to get a clearer idea of requirements traceability matrix, definitely check out your PMBOK guide for an example. But I'll say at a high level, think of this as a matrix that tracks requirements to their origin. Who asked for the requirement? Which entity was it? Which person was it? And down the road, you could use this information as a basis for checking off requirements in the deliverable when the deliverable is deemed complete by the performing organization. The customer could go through the requirements traceability matrix bit by bit and check off on each requirement, map them back to a use case, map them back to a test script, and make sure that the job was indeed done thoroughly. Now, requirements documentation through the lens of the PMI can be looked at as documentation that captures how requirements will meet business needs. For me, I like thinking of requirements documentation as a catch-all for any other requirement documents that are not captured explicitly as part of the RTM, Requirements Traceability Matrix. But the key thing about these documents is they should depict, they should illustrate or describe how those requirements meet the business objective or the business needs. And that pretty much is collect requirements. Now, for the work I usually give below this video, a lot of it I've already done for you today. That will not always be the case. So get ready to search for some more information that I will put below subsequent videos. For today, however, if you look carefully, you'll see those open-ended questions. Go over them, make sure you know the answers to those. Thanks very much for your audience today, and speak to you again on 40 Days to PMP and CAPM Exam Success. Bye for now.